You might be on the right path, but following the wrong schedule. You measure your blood pressure every day, but the numbers bounce up and down like the weather in March. Sometimes it's unusually high, other times oddly low, and you start wondering, am I doing something wrong? Blood pressure, like a biological clock, doesn't stay still. It shifts with your body's rhythms, your mood, your meals, your sleep, even the morning coffee you just sipped. If you measure it at the wrong time, it's like trying to photograph a flying bird with a blurry camera. You won't capture reality. The danger? Too many people trust the wrong number. When the reading spikes unexpectedly, panic sets in. When the number is lower than usual, you relax, perhaps too much. When it looks normal, but was taken right after climbing the stairs, you think, I'm fine. The truth is, numbers don't lie, but they can be misleading if you ask them at the wrong time. Imagine watching a TV drama, but only tuning in during commercials. How could you ever grasp the story? Blood pressure works the same way. If you pick the wrong moment, you only get a still snapshot of a constantly flowing picture. According to a U.S.-based survey, nearly 2 out of 3 seniors measure their blood pressure at home incorrectly or at the wrong time, leading to misdiagnosis, improper medication adjustments, and missed early warnings of heart disease or stroke. The monitor may be smart, but nothing replaces someone who knows the right time to measure. And that's exactly what we're here to uncover in this video. You don't need fancy gadgets. You don't need complicated apps. You only need one thing, to know the right time to measure blood pressure accurately. Did you know that over 70% of older adults in the U.S. measure their blood pressure incorrectly and don't even realize they're making a mistake? They think they're in control. They see stable numbers on the screen. And then one day, stroke strikes, like lightning on a clear day. No warning, no obvious symptoms, but the signs were there. They just didn't measure at the right time to see them. One wrong minute can lead your life off course. Take Mr. Bill, a 68-year-old from Arizona, a perfect example. He had a home blood pressure monitor. Every morning, after his coffee and newspaper, he would sit down to take a reading. The results? Always around 125 over 80 millimeters of mercury. Nothing to worry about. He felt reassured. Until one afternoon, after a light walk, he felt dizzy and blurred out. Emergency room. Hospital reading over 190 over 100 millimeters of mercury. Doctors reviewed his home readings and noticed a pattern. He always measured right after coffee, a stimulant that temporarily raises blood pressure but doesn't reflect your circulatory system's true baseline. In other words, Mr. Bill was measuring an illusion of stability, and it nearly cost him his life. The difference between knowing the number and understanding the number. Blood pressure is not like room temperature. It's influenced by emotions, food, sleep, physical activity, and timing. In the morning, cortisol hormones make it spike. After meals, it may slightly drop. After exercise or stress, it may temporarily shoot up. If you don't measure at the right time, you're not just getting the wrong number. You're making health decisions based on a shadow of the truth. Wrong numbers, real consequences, according to the American Heart Association, AHA. Every year, over 800,000 new strokes occur in the U.S., and more than half are linked to uncontrolled high blood pressure. Not because there's no medication, not because they lacked a blood pressure monitor, but because people didn't know they had a problem, because they were measuring it wrong or at the wrong time. The result? Taking meds unnecessarily, low blood pressure, dizziness, falls. Skipping treatment when needed. Increased risk of stroke, heart failure. A false sense of, I'm okay. No lifestyle changes, no prevention. Health is not a guessing game. Measuring blood pressure isn't just putting on the cuff. It's a daily health ritual, like setting your alarm to wake up on time or checking your fuel before a road trip. One small act, if done wrong, can shift the course of your entire life. That's why the most important question isn't just, how high is my blood pressure? It's, when should I measure it to know the truth? And that is exactly what we're about to reveal next. You don't need to be a doctor to measure your blood pressure correctly. You don't need expensive equipment or a high-end clinic. All you need is this: an understanding that blood pressure only gives you an accurate picture when measured at the right time, in the right way, and with the right mindset. Just like a beautiful photo requires the right lighting and angle, a reliable blood pressure reading needs ideal conditions to reflect your true health. Only then will you see your real cardiovascular state instead of guessing or assuming. The good news? Everything you need can be done right at home, simple, easy to remember, and especially effective for those over 55 when it's time to start proactively caring for your blood vessels, heart, and blood pressure. In this video, we'll walk you through: what time of day is the golden hour for blood pressure measurement? How many times should you measure, and how far apart? What should you avoid before measuring? And how can you turn this into a healthy daily habit, not a stressful chore? Let's now dive into the most important part. When is the best time to measure your blood pressure, and how to do it right to monitor your heart health every day? You wake up in the morning, the house is quiet, your heartbeat is steady after a night of rest. This is the ideal moment to understand how your body is really functioning. According to the American Heart Association, the best time to take your blood pressure at home is about 1 hour after waking up, before breakfast, and after using the bathroom. This is when your numbers reflect your true vascular condition, unaffected by food, movement, or emotional fluctuations. Why the morning? After a restful night, your body returns to a stable baseline, free from external influences. Cortisol, a natural hormone that rises in the morning, can slightly elevate your blood pressure. Measuring at this time can reveal early signs of high blood pressure, even if symptoms aren't noticeable yet. If you take blood pressure medication, measuring before your dose shows your body's true baseline, critical information for your doctor to adjust treatment properly. Especially for adults over 55, the age group at highest risk for hypertension, morning readings can help detect morning hypertension, a dangerous pattern that increases stroke risk if left unmanaged. A 2022 study in the Journal of Hypertension found that older adults who measured their blood pressure every morning for 3 months had 27% better control over their blood pressure than those with irregular routines. In short, the morning gives you a clear snapshot of your real health, before the day sweeps you away with meals, stress, and activities. But what about the evening? Let's explore that next. If morning is the golden time to check your baseline, evening is the mirror that reflects your body's entire day. After a full day of meals, movement, emotions, and stress, blood pressure can change significantly. That's why taking an additional reading in the evening, typically between 7 to 9 p.m., about 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, is so valuable. This isn't just a second reading, it's your health daily summary. It helps you observe whether your blood pressure is stable or fluctuating too much. Unusual evening spikes, if they occur regularly, may point to chronic stress, a sodium-heavy diet, hormonal imbalances, or nocturnal hypertension, a hidden condition that significantly raises the risk of stroke and heart failure in older adults. A Mayo Clinic study found that people who measured their blood pressure in both the morning and evening were 38% more likely to detect high blood pressure abnormalities early than those who only measured once per day. This habit is especially critical if you're on medication, as it helps doctors evaluate whether your treatment is lasting through the day and adjust as needed. In summary, Evening measurement lets you wrap up your health day, making sure nothing abnormal slips through silently. You might choose the right time, morning or evening, to measure your blood pressure. But if you don't follow the proper preparation steps, the number on your monitor can still misrepresent reality. Imagine stepping on a scale right after a big meal. Does that number truly reflect your body weight? Blood pressure works the same way. Certain seemingly harmless actions right before a reading can shift your results by dozens of millimeters of mercury. Here are the non-negotiable rules to remember. 1. Rest at least 5 minutes before measuring. Sit calmly. Don't talk. Don't overthink. Your body needs a few quiet minutes to stabilize after walking, moving, or any activity. 2. Avoid coffee, smoking, or exercise within 30 minutes of measuring. Caffeine and nicotine both constrict blood vessels and cause a temporary spike in blood pressure. The same goes for physical activity. Measuring too soon afterward will lead to artificially high numbers. 3. Sit in the correct posture. Use a chair with back support. Sit upright. Keep both feet flat on the floor. Don't cross your legs. Rest your arm on a table, level with your heart. Make sure your arm is well supported, not hanging in the air. 4. No talking or moving during measurement. Even a single sentence or a small movement can cause fluctuations. Stay silent. Stay calm. By following these simple but essential rules, you're not just measuring a number. You're tuning in to the true rhythm of your body. Measuring blood pressure at home isn't just a task. It's a long-term health habit. But to ensure it's truly helpful, you need accuracy and consistency day after day. Here are some simple but powerful tips to help you maintain that. 1. Always measure on the same arm. Readings can vary by up to 10 millimeters of mercury between arms. Pick one side, typically the left arm if you're right-handed, and stick with it throughout your tracking. 2. Record every result. Don't just glance and forget. Use a notebook, spreadsheet, or mobile app to log your readings. This helps you and your doctor spot patterns and detect early warning signs. 3. Take 2 to 3 readings per session, 1 minute apart, and average them. Blood pressure can slightly vary with each reading. Averaging helps reduce the impact of random fluctuations. 4th, measure at the same times each day. For example, 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. This consistency allows for accurate trend comparison over time. 5. Check your machine's batteries and accuracy regularly. If using a digital monitor, replace batteries every 3 to 6 months. Have your device calibrated annually as per manufacturer guidelines. These small habits will turn your monitor into a trustworthy partner, not a confusing device with meaningless numbers. High blood pressure is a silent threat. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't scream. But it quietly damages your heart, brain, and kidneys day after day. And in this silent battle, your home blood pressure monitor is your first line of defense, but only if you use it the right way, only if you measure at the right time, only if you learn to listen to what your body is whispering through those numbers. Now, you know. Morning, right after waking, gives you your baseline. Evening reveals how your blood pressure responded throughout the day. And most importantly, how and when you measure determines the truth behind the numbers. So start today. Place your monitor where you'll see it every morning. Log your numbers daily, and if something feels off, don't ignore it. Talk to your doctor. You don't measure just to know. You measure to take control of your health every single day. If this video has been helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone you care about. Because health isn't something we can afford to put off until tomorrow. It starts today with one small, steady step.